I'm Sara. I'm an artist and architectural designer, and I've recently quit the 9 to 5 in the past few months so that I can be a stay-at-home mom to my 2 daughters and start my own art and design business from home. In this video, though, I am going to talk to you about my very first art commission, and I am going to walk you through the whole process of how I got my very first client to painting it and, dealing with the client, and how I sort of structure that sort of thing, and what I unfortunately had to learn early about the pricing structure of the type of painting that I was making. So without further ado, let's get into it. So to start off, it started out with me posting various initial paintings that I made in the past few months on my Facebook and my Instagram to my few followers on both of those social media platforms that decided to follow me basically because they felt bad for me. Obviously, because I just started, I have no following of anyone for the most part that probably actually wants my art at this point, but whatever, you gotta start somewhere. And anyway, so I had a family friend that reached out to me saying that they wanted a painting for their brother for his 70th birthday. So she said to me, my brother is turning 70 and I wanted a picture of his new Milford apartment, his new Milford house, his Rivervale house, etc., etc. I will send you what I have so you can tell me if you can do it. A collage? To this, I had a few questions to see how she might be imagining the painting. I said, are you thinking of the paintings just being of the exteriors, or do you have images of the interiors as well? Were you thinking more of painting the whole exterior of the apartment buildings, or zooming in on a select apartment? Also, what sizing are you thinking you'd want for the painting? Would you want it all to be separate paintings that you would frame and then place next to each other? And are you imagining this as watercolor or another paint like oil or acrylic? She was able to pretty quickly answer all those questions that I had, and she basically wanted it to be a watercolor painting and just exteriors of the buildings, and I kind of eventually made the executive decision to only do the exteriors of these buildings. And we can get into that a little bit later. Now, I just want to say that I was already connected to her through Facebook, so I didn't do any sort of emailing back and forth. I think that's actually the more professional method and what I would prefer going forward with clients, just because you have a more of a paper trail, just so you're holding both sides accountable for anything that may go astray during the whole commission process. Not that I think that most people are going to give you a hard time, but you just never know. And it goes the other way. Maybe I mess something up when they also have a paper trail. So we were messaging back and forth a lot with the painting and talking about the reference images that she had given me. And she sent me a few of them, and some were better than others, but there were definitely some reference photos where it was just like a corner of a building or something, and it really it would have been impossible for me to make a good painting out of the reference photos that she gave me. So what I decided to do was ask her for the addresses from these properties where the images just really weren't up to snuff, and I put the address into Google, and at first I was looking at Google Maps to try and see if I can do a zoomed out screenshot of the building from street view, and at least just get a kind of idea for the overall feel of the building and its atmosphere around it. And then I had the other idea to actually look at Zillow and Realtor.com and that sort of thing and see if I could get any nice pictures of the buildings that way. And with that, I actually had a lot of luck, and I was able to take a bunch of screenshots of these buildings and collect them all from different angles and that sort of thing, because none of them are really perfect from what I gathered from those realtor listings still. But I think I had enough reference images in general of each building that I was able to actually take those photos and give them to ChatGPT, and I basically gave it all the different photos in like a new chat and was like, can you make this into an elevation style head-on view of this house? Basically, I mean, I guess just because it's my architectural background in general, that makes me want to have just an elevation style head-on view of the house. But I think that's typically what you would be doing with types of watercolor paintings such as this, where they just want my home painted, you know? So basically I did that, and that worked perfectly. All the proportions were there. There was no like weird AI slop type of thing going on, so it actually ended up making really good reference images. And then from there, I was finally able to start sketching out very loosely what the paintings could be. And basically I only did 2 different options for her. I gave her option 1 and option 2. Option 1 was a landscape style, where basically all of the houses were just like kind of like evenly spaced on a page, but then they were tied together through the landscape. And then I did the same thing, but I did more of like a vertical portrait style one, where there was kind of like going to be this little trail that connected them all, because conceptually I was asking her, like, maybe you want to put them in order from the first house that her brother had purchased all the way down to the most recent. I ended up doing that order for both of them, but I had like a little like path going through them. But she opted for the first one. That was just the nice landscape one, which I think probably makes more sense for this painting. Now for this video, I didn't really film too much of the painting process, and I think that's just because it wasn't really what the video was asking for, I guess. Because this video is more about my commission process in general. But if you are interested in seeing a quick little snippet here and there of my painting process, here you go. Now, I guess I just want to talk a little bit about my overall experience with this commission, and it being my first commission, and just what I think about it. I guess I want to say first that this painting probably took me a lot longer than I had originally anticipated it taking, and one of the reasons were that I suddenly had someone asking me to paint something for them, and then I was like, oh shoot, I do not have any way to ship this. I don't have any of like the professional packaging setup done yet, and I need to figure that out. And so I needed to have a professional like little label, I guess, set up. Like, I just wanted it to look like it wasn't just me wrapping it up real quick and sending it to her. I wanted her to have a nice experience opening the package. So I needed to get like the actual shipping packaging itself and labels to make sure that it was looking professional, and I needed like boards to put in there to make sure that it was extra sturdy, so it wasn't going to bend when, you know, people are carrying it and not caring about it. And then I also needed to create a certificate of authenticity, and then I even needed to create a logo for my art and design company, which is called Venustas. And I hadn't even really done that yet. I had some ideas about what I wanted for a logo, but I was like, okay, I actually need to make a logo, and then I need to get a certificate of authenticity with my logo on it. I need to make thank you cards for when I send those out with my print on demand stuff, and then I want to have these cute little stamps with my logo on there so it just all looks nice and tidy. So I had to make a whole logo, and that took me a lot of time in itself. So basically I was trying to film my commission, paint my commission, but also I was trying to set up my website, and it was just a whole bunch of stuff at once. So this took me a lot longer than I anticipated, but at the same time, I think that it was all stuff that needed to be done, and it helped me get it done quicker than I probably would have. So it's actually a good thing. But that's another reason why it's taken me so long to get a YouTube video out, because of all these things coming up. And I actually, now that I think about it, I wanted to make a video about how I created my logo. I actually think there ended up being a nice process to actually me coming up with my design firm name called Venustas, and I actually had a decent process to creating the logo in itself. So if you guys are interested in a video about me creating all of that, I guess in general, let me know, because I think that would be something that might actually be informative to you if you are starting your own business or what have you. And so anyway, to talk about my overall first art commission experience and to say the good and the bad things in general, I guess my overall impressions are a little bit mixed about doing art commissions in general. I think on the one hand, it's great that someone likes your art enough for them to want you to make a painting for them. I think that's a huge compliment, and especially someone that's just starting out, regardless of whether it's a friend or a family friend, the fact that anyone wants to have you make a painting for them is a big deal to me anyway. I think the flip side though is that when you, especially honestly, when you are trying to start to build up a design and art business and you're someone like myself that hasn't even painted in a really long time, you really don't have a style. Like, I think I have like a loose style of what my art is. Like, I mean, I know I like art that's centered to place, and I tend to gravitate more towards light saturated colors, but like things that are like overall bright and airy, atmospheric. I mean, that was everything that I would make with my architectural renders that I was doing while I was working and when I was getting my master's degree. So I think I have a style in that sense, but I just haven't like really painted so much in such a long time that for me it's important to kind of figure out what my style is. But I think that there's a lot of artists that spend decades making paintings and they never find their style, so I don't know. But I see commissions as, I guess to wrap it up, what I was talking about, I think that commissions make you paint something that isn't necessarily contributing to your long-term artist style, and instead you're making someone else's vision. But at the same time, I do think that that can also be a good thing, because if you have something like artist block that I know a lot of people have, you might have difficulty even deciding on what to paint. And I think that with a commission piece, you are removing that boundary of not knowing what to paint, and you can just paint what someone else wants you to paint and they're gonna pay you for it. So I think it's a win-win in that scenario. Plus you're also just constantly getting more practice with each painting that you make. I think the big thing that I had to learn early on about this whole art commission process is really the pricing of this whole painting that I made. I will say, which is something that you probably shouldn't do when you are trying to sell your artwork, is that I actually let her have it for free. And I let her have it for free though because just of the fact that it literally was my first commission. She's a family friend, technically, you know, I would say somewhat estranged family friend, but she was always there for me, like for, you know, just like texting, like every birthday, every child being born, every loss that occurred. I was kind of using it as a test run, which I think has benefited me a lot because, you know, again, it took me so long to get the professional setup to even be able to send it to her, and there was so much that I had to learn. But now, anyway, coming to pricing, I think that it was kind of a wake-up call of what should I actually be charging for a painting such as this. So the painting was 7 different houses that I had to paint on one image, and you had to, or I had to, do it in a way where it all looked cohesive and was kind of blending together to make it look like it was all cohesive and going together, which is fine. I think that what I am struggling with a little bit more is how much work should you be putting into a commission painting before they actually pay you. So my structure is set up that on my website, you can see this, and it is structured so that someone would inquire and have a consultation with me about what they're thinking about for a painting. And then what you would do is kind of like have like a sketching phase, and then I would send that to the client to see if this is how they would want to proceed. If they like the thing that I sketched, then that's when I would get a 50% non-refundable deposit for the painting. But I guess what I question is how much work should you be doing before you even get half of that money? I think it's fine to figure out how you're gonna tie in the extra cost of that upfront work into the commission at the end, like all together, but I think that it might be a little bit scary to do all that work and then maybe have it not work out with the client, and then they don't want to move forward, and then you wasted like I don't know how much time, because I think for me to, consult with her, collect all of those reference images, do my own investigative research to find better reference photos, I should say, for these, and then convert them into nice elevations that can actually be used for reference photos for the painting, and then do sketches, if not basic sketches. It probably took quite a chunk of time, and when I did look up on the internet, I got such mixed feedback about how long it should be taking. Like I got like anywhere from like 15 minutes to a half hour to do all of that sort of pre-sketch work, and I'm like, this took me hours to do. So I don't know, but that is something that makes me a little bit hesitant about commissions and that sort of thing. But I don't know. I think at the same time, if people are reaching out to you for a commission in the first place, they have seen your art and they basically know what they're gonna get. So I would say that's probably unlikely to happen. Anyway, I would say that my next question is, what is a reasonable amount to be charging for a painting such as this? So what I ended up painting, I don't think is my favorite style of painting, even though it's not my favorite, and it might not look like, in my mind, as like clean or pristine as like, like really getting into the nitty gritty of making a hyper realistic painting. It still took me a lot of time to do, honestly. I would say for each house in general, everything all included, it probably took at the very minimum 2 hours per house, but probably more like closer to 3. And I think with that, it's a little bit like, there's nothing wrong with it taking that long, because, you want to get the proportions right and make sure that you are being true to the house that you are trying to paint. But I guess the thing is, now it's like, what would you charge per hour for a painting such as this? Like, for me, I've been probably honing my craft since I've been in kindergarten and have been put in special art classes for people who are gifted in art. And then, I spent mostly all of my life painting or drawing, and then I went on to school where I got a bachelor's degree in visual arts with a concentration in painting and drawing, and then I continued on to get my master's degree in architecture, where I really focused on the design side of things pretty heavily, where I was creating like these beautiful renders, and it was all about the design, like composition, colors, like materials. My point is, by this time I should be getting paid a fair amount per hour for the work that I'm doing. And I would say at the very minimum, probably $35 to $40 an hour minimum for the work that I'd be doing on these paintings. If you're looking at that, if I charge, sorry, I have to look at my computer for this, but if I charge $35 by 14 hours total, that's $490 before shipping, material cost is added, and taxes. And then at $40 an hour and at 21 hours total, we're looking at $840 for this painting before shipping, material cost is added, and taxes. And I guess for me, and I think this is where think the fraudulent mindset comes in a bit for a lot of artists in general, is what should you be charging for these paintings, and what do you think people are actually going to pay for these paintings? And I think that is just the thing that I'm struggling with, is that obviously you want people to buy your work and commission you, but at the same time, you're like, is $490 to $840 for this painting worth it to a customer? And I think that that is like kind of the biggest thing that I'm struggling with. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know if you're an art collector or another artist that is dealing with this, or you've gotten over it as an artist and you have the answer. Whatever your thoughts are, comment below if you have any advice or thoughts on the matter. I think for me, as of now, as far as commissions go, it's really just more about charging on a case-by-case basis, probably within that hourly amount that I've been talking about. But I think it's just important to be as fair to myself, but also to the client as possible with what is a fair price for the work that I'm doing. Anyway, I think that's all that I have for this video. Again, let me know down in the comments what you think of the painting and my process and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, hopefully I will be getting more videos out soon. I told you I had kind of a hang up with making videos just because of me actually trying to set up my website so that people can actually buy stuff from it, along with I'm trying to set up an Etsy page because I'm really bad at marketing, it turns out. So I think that having maybe a separate Etsy page as well to sell my art might also be helpful. And then yeah, I have some other projects coming up that I'm kind of excited about, and I think that I am slowly growing my business, but I see positive signs. I'm pretty excited about this. So for anyone that has been watching me, or anyone that's been watching me and is looking at my videos as ideas to get about maybe starting your own business in the art and design field, I would say it's worth doing. Like, already I'm starting to see that it is worth it, and I think that if you just keep pushing forward and get even just a little bit done each day, no matter what else you have going on, like with me with my 2 daughters that I have at home and I have to take care of them, and I'm homeschooling my 5-year-old. Even though my progress seems to be slow to me, I also see how much further I've come in the last few months by sticking to this rather than not doing it at all. Okay, so I have babbled on long enough, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.